Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today, we are going to challenge a concept that I think most of us, especially in the modern world, sort of consider a gold standard.
And that is interfaith dialogue.
Exactly.
It's a phrase that sounds incredibly civilized, doesn't it?
It does. It evokes a very specific image. I always picture, a round table, maybe a conference center somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
People from different religions, they're all politely nodding at one another. You have your tea, I have mine. You stay in your theological lane, I stay in mine. And we just agree to be nice.
Right. It's safe, it's sanitized, it's what we call tolerance.
But the stack of research we are unpacking today suggests that this version of dialogue, this polite, guarded exchange, might actually be a little superficial.
Or at least it's not the only way to do it.
And for that, we're traveling back in time today, about 600 years, to the Valley of Kashmir. We're going to look at a radical experiment in how to bridge the gap between two totally different worldviews.
And the central figure here isn't a diplomat. He's a mystic. And he didn't use polite conversation to bridge that gap. He used something much, much heavier. He used the concept of death.
This is the deep dive on Nund Rishi, also known as the Alamdar, or flag bearer of Kashmir.
And we're basing this conversation on the fascinating research of scholar Abir Bashir Bazaz, specifically his work on negative theology.
And just to set the stakes here, Bazaz's argument is that Nund Rishi didn't just preach coexistence.
No.
He practiced interfaith translation.
And that is a much messier, much more dangerous, and honestly a much more effective game than what we usually see today.
Translation is the key word there. We aren't talking about swapping words in a dictionary.
Not at all.
We are talking about translating your entire soul into the language of the other. So let's set the scene. If we drop into Kashmir in the late 1300s, what are we walking into?
It was a moment of just absolute seismic shifts. You have to imagine the ground literally moving beneath people's feet. For centuries, Kashmir had been this incredible intellectual powerhouse of Hinduism, specifically Shaivism and Buddhism, a real center of Sanskrit learning.
Right.
But by the 14th century, the political structures were collapsing.
Yeah.
And you have the rise of the Muslim sultanate.
So the king is now a sultan. The entire political order has just flipped.
Exactly. And with that political flip, you get a new religion, Islam becoming the dominant political force. But, and this is crucial, the research highlights that there wasn't just one type of Islam arriving. It wasn't a monolith.
Right. The sources distinguish between the elites and the vernacular. Let's start with the elites. Who were they?
Okay, so these were the immigrants. Think Persian Sufis, like the Kubra order.
Okay.
These guys were the cosmopolitan intellectuals of the medieval world. They came from Central Asia, they spoke Persian, and they headed straight for the royal court. They were the high church equivalent, if you will.
So these are the top-down guys. They hang out with the sultan. They focus on Islamic law shura. And for them, being Muslim is about being distinct from the locals.
Precisely. Their whole project was about boundaries. We are Muslims, you are non-Muslims. Here is the line.
Cross it if you want to be saved, but otherwise, stay over there.
Yes. They brought a kind of potted plant version of Islam, keeping it in the soil of Persia, just moving the pot to Kashmir. They didn't want to get their hands dirty with the local culture.
And then on the complete other side of the spectrum, you have Nund Rishi.
The vernacular, the little tradition. Nund Rishi wasn't an immigrant. He was born in a village in Kashmir around 1378.
Okay.
He didn't hang out in courts. He walked the forests. He didn't speak Persian. He spoke, and more importantly, he composed poetry in Kashmiri.
That seems like a small detail, but in that context, speaking the local language was a political statement, wasn't it?
Oh, it was a radical claim to authority. By speaking Kashmiri, he was saying, God speaks your language too. He established the Rishi Order, which was an indigenous Muslim ascetic movement, but, and here is the kicker, he's so entangled with the local traditions that even today he has two names. The Muslims call him Sheikh al Ālam, teacher of the world, and the Hindus call him Sahaja, the bliss of the natural.
There is a legend in the source material that just perfectly captures this entanglement. It involves Lal Ded, the famous Hindu mystic. I think this story really sets the tone for everything else.
You absolutely cannot tell Nund Rishi's story without Lal Ded. She was a wandering yogini, a real giant of Kashmiri Shaivism.
And legend says that when Nund Rishi was an infant, he refused to breastfeed.
From his own mother, yeah. He wouldn't eat. The family was distraught. They thought the child was going to die.
And then Lal Ded enters the scene.
Right. A Hindu ascetic enters a Muslim household. She picks up the baby Nund Rishi and whispers to him, You are not ashamed to be born, so why are you ashamed to drink? And then, in this incredibly potent, almost shocking image, she offers him her own breast, and he feeds.
That is, wow. A Hindi yogini literally nursing the future Muslim saint of Kashmir. It's so intimate.
It's the foundational myth of Kashmiri pluralism. It's saying that his spiritual DNA, his vitality, it flows directly from the Hindu past.
He isn't erasing the old religion.
He is imbibing it. He is nourished by it. And this gave him immense credibility with the common people.
Which brings us to this concept of translation. Because Nund Rishi didn't just borrow milk. He borrowed language.
Yeah.
Bazaz talks a lot about this term, Sahaja. What does that mean here?
Sahaja is a Sanskrit word. It means innate or spontaneous. In the local spiritual ecology, it meant the truth that you were born with something natural, not forced by rituals. It's the water, not the bottle.
Okay.
And Nund Rishi does something audacious here. He takes the Sanskrit concept and applies it to the Quran.
He calls the Quran the Sahaja Quran.
Which changes everything. If the Quran is Sahaja, then it's not a foreign import from Arabia.
Right.
It's an awakening of something you already have inside you. He's telling the Kashmiri peasant, you don't have to become an Arab or Persian to follow this path. This path is already in your blood.
He even gave the Prophet Muhammad a new title, didn't he?
He called him the first Rishi.
That is bold. Taking the Prophet of Islam and categorizing him as a Rishi, a Vedic sage, that feels like it would upset the orthodox elites.
Oh, the elites hated it. But for the common person, it was a masterclass in translation. By calling Muhammad a Rishi, he validates Islam through the lens of the ancestors.
It creates a genealogy.
It does. It says, look, this new message is just the latest chapter of our own story. It's interreligious entanglement at its best. He's refusing to let the religions be separate categories.
Okay, so he hooks them with the local language and these familiar concepts. But once he has their attention, the actual message he delivers is, well, it's heavy.
Yes.
This is where we get to the negative theology.
This is the core of Bazaz's research.
So why negative? Is he just being pessimistic? Is this about being depressed about the world?
No, negative here doesn't mean bad or sad. It refers to the via negativa, the negative way. It's a theological method where you try to understand the ultimate reality, God, truth, whatever you call it, by stripping away everything that it is not.
You clear the deck.
You clear the deck, you negate the finite to find the infinite. And for Nund Rishi, the ultimate tool for clearing the deck was death.
The sources say his poetry is obsessed with death and the void shunya. Why focus on that? Why not paradise or blessings or how great God is?
Because blessings and rituals divide us. My rituals are better than yours. My heaven looks different than yours.
My God has a beard, yours has many arms.
Exactly. But death is the great equalizer. Nund Rishi realized that if you strip away the labels, Hindu, Muslim, Brahmin, outcast what is left, we are all temporary. We are all going to die.
There is this one shruk. That's what his verses are called, right? Shruks.
Yes. Shruk implies a knot. They are like riddles you have to untie.
Right.
They aren't meant to be consumed easily. You have to chew on them.
So there's this one shruk about shop closing.
Yeah.
It really stuck with me because it feels so modern. We're all so busy doing our thing.
The shop closing metaphor is haunting. He compares human life to a bazaar. During the day, it's loud, it's busy, people are trading, cheating, arguing over prices. It feels so important. The hustle, right?
Yeah.
But then evening comes, the shutters go down, the shopkeepers leave, and the marketplace is just empty.
Like water absorbed by new clay vessels.
Yeah.
That's the line he uses to describe how death takes youth. It just sucks it dry.
It's about the suddenness of the end. He's forcing the listener to confront the fact that their business, their ego, their status, their religious arguments is all going to vanish when the sun sets.
But isn't that just depressing? Hey, everyone, nothing matters. We're all dust. How is that a bridge between people? Usually we try to build bridges on hope, not despair.
That's the genius of it. If we are all dust, then why are we fighting? If I admit that I am nothing, and you admit that you are nothing, we suddenly have something profound in common, our shared fragility. It levels the playing field.
It reminds me of that phrase the sources mentioned, die before you die. That sounds like a riddle.
It is, and it's a concept found in both Sufism and Buddhism, which Nund Rishi harmonizes perfectly. Die before you die means dismantling your ego now.
While you're alive.
Don't wait for physical death. Kill your greed, kill your pride, kill your tribalism while you are still alive.
So it's an active process. It's not just waiting for the end.
Yes. He writes, death is a sweet drink without which you shall not heal.
Without which you shall not heal. That flips the script. Usually we think of death as the sickness. He's saying the ego is the sickness, and the awareness of death is the medicine.
It's a call to kenosis, self-emptying. If you empty yourself of you make room for the divine. And in that empty space, a Hindu and a Muslim can actually meet.
Because the walls of dogma have been knocked down.
The walls which are built by the ego, yes.
Now, this wasn't just mystical navel-gazing, though, was it? Bazaz argues that this negative theology had real-world political teeth. He calls it negative political theology.
It was incredibly political. You have to remember the context. You have sultans building massive monuments claiming divine right. You have elites hoarding wealth. When Nund Rishi comes along and says, all of this is fleeting, the void is coming for everything, he is delegitimizing their power.
It's the ultimate reality check for a dictator. You can't really intimidate a guy who's already focused on the void.
Exactly. There's a poem where he describes the palaces of the rich. High walls, guarded gates, turning the poor away. They look so permanent.
Right.
But then he fast forwards the tape. He says, I saw those same palaces in ruins, and now people are growing cotton over them.
Cotton growing over the ruins of the palace. That is such a specific, humble image. Nature reclaiming the monument.
It tells the peasant, don't be intimidated by the sultan. His power is dust. And it tells the sultan, watch out. It's a critique of power rooted in the apocalypse.
He also redefines what a true believer is. Yeah. And he does it in a way that seems designed to bypass the religious gatekeepers.
This is the poem, He Alone is a True Muslim. Now remember the elites. To them, a true Muslim follows Sharia, wears the right clothes, prays in Arabic. Nund Rishi says, no, a true Muslim is one who conquers anger, one who conquers greed, one who shares his food with the hungry.
Which are virtues that a Buddhist monk or a Hindu peasant would immediately nod along with.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He shifted the definition from tribal identity to ethical substance. He made it so that a non-Muslim could look at a Muslim and recognize shared values, rather than just seeing a foreign conqueror.
I want to go back to the poetry itself for a minute. You mentioned these are knots. They aren't linear lectures. Bazaz highlights a couple of metaphors that are really, well, they're tricky. One is the pomegranate.
The pomegranate and the fire. It's a complex image interpreted by the critic Raman Rahi. Imagine a child who wants to steal pomegranates from a tree, but it's dark.
Okay.
So to see the fruit, the child lights a bundle of grass.
Okay, so he's shedding light on the prize. Makes sense.
But the fire gets out of control. It threatens the whole orchard. And suddenly the child is stuck. He has the desire for the fruit, but he's created a disaster, and now he's terrified of the return journey home.
Afraid of the punishment.
Yes. That feels like a metaphor for, well, everything. We want the fruit, money, power, pleasure. We burn things down to get it, and then we're left staring at the ashes, terrified of the consequences.
It captures the anxiety of existence. It's not a comforting, here's the answer poem. It's a poem that forces you to feel the tension between your desire and your inevitable end. And then there's the crow. That one felt very visual to me.
The crow shedding its feathers. Imagine a bird standing there and all its beautiful plumage, the things that let it fly, the things that give it shape and identity, just fall off and pile up at its feet.
That is a stark image, a naked bird.
It's the shedding of the self. The feathers are our pretensions, our titles, our I'm this, I am that. When you face the truth, the nothing, you lose your feathers.
And Bazaz calls what's left the form of the nothing, Shunya Kar.
Right. Nund Rishi says that when life, zoo, and greed, blob, finally leave the stage, what remains is the form of the nothing.
It implies that our true reality, our Sahaja state, is what's left when the frantic noise of living stops.
It's the silence after the song.
So bringing this all together, we have a mystic who used the local language, bridged the gap with Hindu philosophy, and used the terrifying reality of death to level the playing field between the powerful and the poor.
That's a great summary, yes.
Why does this matter to us sitting here today? We aren't in medieval Kashmir. But Bazaz seems to think this Nund Rishi model is actually urgent for us.
It is urgent because our current model of tolerance is failing. We built a world where we tolerate each other, but we don't engage. We just ignore the differences to keep the peace. Bazaz calls what Nund Rishi did interreligious entanglement.
Entanglement sounds messy. It sounds like something you get stuck in.
It is messy, and that's the point. True pluralism isn't about ignoring differences or building walls. It's about being willing to translate your sacred concepts into the language of your neighbor.
Nund Rishi wasn't afraid to let his Islam be contaminated.
And I use that word in a positive way, the way a scholar would. He wasn't afraid to let it be contaminated by the Hindu worldview.
He risked his own purity to make a connection.
Yes. He suggests that if we only speak our own theological language, we are just shouting into the void. But if we translate, if we say, okay, I call it monotheism, you call it the void, but let's look at what we both fear. Death, suffering, fragility.
That's where you find the connection.
That is where you find the Sahaja, the innate connection.
It's moving the conversation from my doctrine versus your doctrine to we are all in the same sinking boat.
Or to use Nund Rishi's metaphor, we are all in the same shop and the shutters are coming down. So how do we want to treat each other in these final minutes?
That is a powerful question. It shifts the stakes completely. It makes kindness urgent.
It does. It reminds us that religion, at its best, isn't a fortress, it's a bridge. And sometimes the only way to cross that bridge is to leave your heavy armor, your ego, your rigid definitions behind.
Bazaz uses a great phrase for this, apophatic boldness.
The boldness to speak about what cannot be spoken, and the boldness to cross frontiers. Nund Rishi negated the power structures of his time to open a space where a Hindu yogini could be the spiritual mother of a Muslim saint.
That is a radical act of love.
It's much harder than just sitting at a conference table sipping tea.
So here is the challenge for you listening today. We often think of understanding someone else as learning their facts. Oh, they believe X, Y, and Z. But Nund Rishi challenges us to go deeper.
He challenges us to translate. What would it look like for you to translate your core beliefs into the language of the person you disagree with most?
Not to convert them, and not to lose yourself, but just to find that innate ground beneath all the arguments.
If you stripped away the labels, the politics, and the jargon, and you were both just facing the nothing, what would you say to each other then?
It's a scary question, but as Nund Rishi would say, it's a sweet drink without which you shall not heal.
Couldn't have said it better.
Thanks for taking this deep dive into the mystic world of Kashmir with us. We'll catch you on the next one.